Hello friends, I just bought this 2018 Honda Civic Sport with a manual transmission on Copart. I bid $4,250. With fees and delivery we're looking at just about $5,100. And in this video, I think we're going to rebuild it. So now we need to try and figure out all the parts that we need to buy. I've already tried pulling on our hood release inside the car and that did absolutely nothing, and that's likely why whoever, probably the insurance, did the damage assessment here, they've unbolted our hood hinges. So the back of the hood is free to go, the front a little less so, but I should be able to, you know, do something like this. Look at that, they left us a badge. That's nice. I can't remember the last time I saw Phillips head screws holding a bumper. It's almost always Torx. I don't really mind seeing that. Alright, looks like one of the fog light grills survived. That's nice. The fog light itself did not. The center grill also survived, more or less. It looks like this headlight actually survived. There's not a single piece of damage on this except for this one broken mount. And so is this one. With just a little bit of glue and plastic welding, this thing is going to be good as new. Now I'm going to try and get our radiator out, and to do that I needed to disconnect our intercooler tube here, but looks like it's coming out, sort of, kind of, not very voluntarily, but it's getting there. I'm yet to find damages on this radiator that would explain how we lost all this coolant, because I mean, sure, the radiator is beat up, but it's not like destroyed. It seems to be still sealed. Oh, actually, there we go. We have a hole right here. I believe this is where the drain is. Yeah, there we go. So that's where all of our coolant leaked from. Just this guy right there. Sad, but true. So we'll need a new radiator. Get out of there. Oh my gosh, finally. But overall, things are looking okay. I mean, the entire radiator support is going to need to be replaced. The fan survived, no cracks, no chips, apart from this little ridge here. Not really something that's worth worrying about. Isn't going to affect anything at all. I'll be honest with you guys, it has been probably about a month since the last clip was taken, but we now have, I believe, every single part necessary for fixing this car. The only thing that is not addressed as of now is that driver's door that does have a dent, a sizable dent in it, that I'm going to attempt fixing myself, but considering the fact that I usually suck at PDR, I probably am not going to be able to do it well. But there's quite a lot of parts, some of which needed to be painted, which we had done as well. Not myself, just dropped it off with the body guy. All right, I believe that's about it. So today, hopefully, I'm gonna be able to put this all back together and see what else we're dealing with on this car. There's quite a bit of dash lights. Some of them might be for the stuff that's unplugged. Some of them might be for something else. Some of them might be something that just needs to get erased by driving around, which this car hasn't done in quite a while. And yeah, let's just do it. Before we do much else, I do need to get our radiator support off, or whatever's left of it. The bottom half here is still attached. And to remove that, we need to get rid of our intercooler. I had that on so that I can keep driving the car around a lot as needed. Here you go, intercooler comes off. Easy enough. There's a bolt down here. And lastly, I believe there's 2 more bolts down at the bottom here. Oh, wow. They actually give you a little hole in the skid plate to get access to that bolt. I mean, there's absolutely no way Audi would have done something like this. Oh yeah. Seems to be loose now. All right, just a couple of little brackets for some of our coolant hoses, and this thing should be free to go. All right, the radiator support is fully off now. Let's go ahead and start fitting the new one. I really did not want to mess around with evacuating the refrigerant gas because I don't have one of those recovery machines, but definitely should invest into one soon because I keep needing that. And in general, it just didn't seem like a reasonable choice to replace this condenser because this one still works. It's still holding the 134A, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do, and it's not leaking, even though it doesn't look great. So I actually didn't record this because I didn't think it was gonna work, but with a pair of pliers, I was able to straighten out most of our damages here. And it definitely doesn't look perfect anymore, but it looks fine, like way better. And this is one of those parts that either works or doesn't. It's either holding our refrigerant gas or it doesn't hold it. And these little bends are not really gonna cause any kind of issues with your AC. In fact, changing the condenser might cause more issues later down because the O-rings might not like being moved around, and the replacement condenser might not be of the same quality that the stock one is. So I think we're just gonna keep it this way. I thought about this long and hard, and even though I have a replacement, it just doesn't seem like a reasonable choice to evacuate the system and replace it and then have to fill in the refrigerant gas once again. That just seems like a waste to me. So even though some of you might not agree with this methodology, I think that's what we're gonna do. All right, so things are, starting to take place. Things are starting to look better. We could have managed to put this back together if I hadn't made a mistake. Turns out that there was a mount under the headlight that should have been ordered, and I just didn't realize that. You can actually see it on this headlight over here. I've already mounted this. This headlight is all set, and the bracket luckily survived from hitting the deer. There was no cracks, no damages on this guy at all. But all this means is that I had to order the new mount, which is going to take a few days to get here. So until then, there's really not a whole lot we can do on this because obviously can't put on the bumper, can't put on the headlight. But the good news is that I am able to try and address this pretty sizable dent on our driver's door here. I'm really not confident about fixing this, so it's gonna take some skill that I don't really have, but I'm gonna give this a shot and we'll go from there. If I have to give this away to the body shop, I will. So I'm gonna give this a shot. We're gonna take off the interior door card and just see if we can come up with any way to straighten this out. They sure do make these easy to remove, so that's nice. Now there's this plug we gotta get rid of. Peel this away. Oh, I need to roll the window up. I forgot about that. So, there we go. And now I can kind of feel for this dent up here. So what I'm gonna do now is stick this rubber mallet in there. There you go, see that? So I think if we do start working it from this side, I spent a few hours on this and I did make it better, but I didn't make it good enough, so I just ended up taking it to the body shop anyway. Alright, we went for a drive. So far I did maybe like 15 miles on this, and there's a lot of dash lights. Definitely something not perfect. We have a check engine light for some sort of a wastegate actuator situation, and then there are codes for traction control, something to do with our steering. It's probably electric, and brake system. So maybe like wheel speed sensor, something along those lines. I haven't diagnosed it yet, but the good news is that it does drive well, seems to be smooth. Wheel alignment is good, shifts well, goes through all the gears, but it is in what I'm assuming is a limp mode because it feels very slow. Likely, well, definitely because of our wastegate actuator code, because obviously if the wastegate doesn't work properly, it will be unsafe for this car to be in regular mode and potentially have an overboost scenario, which we really don't want. All right, we're in second gear, pedal to the floor. So yeah, very slow. Still pedal to the floor, barely climbing up this hill. It's enough to get up to speed on the highway, but definitely not as quick as it should be. And here are the codes we're facing. So here's that wastegate lift sensor issue that I've mentioned. And then this is a concerning one, ECM failure. That just doesn't make any sense. I wonder if that is somehow related to this code, which is very inconclusive. Vehicle stability assist system malfunction, meaning that it's not really telling us what's wrong, it's just saying that there is a malfunction and we don't know how to diagnose that. Unless these are caused by this code. That's also a possibility. Maybe these are just related and are being thrown because of an issue with our wastegate. And as soon as I actually take a close look at our turbo, we can see our issue that I definitely should have noticed right away. So this pin is broken off of our wastegate actuator, and obviously this thing is destroyed. So we're gonna have to replace this guy. I did order the part, which luckily was only about 45 bucks. So once that gets delivered, we're going to install it. All right, we got the door fixed. Now I have a couple of somewhat minor things to do. Finally, the part for our turbo has gotten delivered, so we can get that replaced and finally see what this car actually drives like. Another thing I need to address is our, I don't know what you call it. Long story short, the little cover that goes over here, as well as our windshield sprayers, which are in our old hood, and we gotta swap them into this car. I did come to a very sad realization, and that is the fact that changing this wastegate actuator is significantly harder than I initially thought. There's a linkage under this heat shield that I will need to remove, and to remove this heat shield I'll have to remove this intake pipe, and to do that there is some very hard to reach bolt. There's no way to get to it, so you have to use an extension and do it practically blindly because there's no way to see these bolts from up top. Another sad thing is that this would have been significantly easier to do when I had the front end off. So far things are looking promising. I've removed a few bolts and one of the heat shields is already loose. So for reference, here's what this guy looks like. It is in there like that, and then we have this linkage going in right behind this heat shield and connecting right over here. So all we have to do is get this clip out, and theoretically we should be able to pull this linkage off. Obviously I can definitely see why this would have been easier with the intake tube off, but I feel like that would take me hours to remove, so just not worth it. There we go. Sweet. And there we go. All right, didn't drop it. Perfect. There we go. That came off. Perfect. All right, so now all we have to worry about is the 4 tiny little Allen bolts holding this guy onto the bracket. Pretty limited amount of tools that can actually unscrew these, but we'll give it our best shot. Because of this lack of space, I know we need something long, so I'm hoping that just a regular screwdriver with a bit for the 3mm Allen is gonna be sufficient. Oh boy, those are tighter than they should be, and I think they might be stripping out. This one got stripped. And now I'm gonna try and use a 15 Torx with hopes that that's gonna be able to grip this better. Which so far it is. I'm not even able to. There, yes, it's unscrewing. Yay. That worked so much better than I anticipated. I was afraid that I was gonna have to tear this whole thing apart and start coming up with ways of getting this bolt out. However, these two are the easiest bolts. The hardest part is going to be the bottom ones, and who's to say that those aren't going to strip either. All right, the third bolt is getting free. After trying that 4th bolt for the wastegate actuator, I quickly realized that you just can't get it out with the tools that I have without doing this the complete right way and removing the intake tube. So I've been working away at removing the bolts, which honestly, luckily wasn't too hard. I just know that it's going to be significantly harder to put it back in with the amount of space that we have here. So now I don't think I'm going to have to fully remove this, which would involve me having to disconnect all the sensors and whatnot. I'm just going to try and push it out of the way a little bit, just like so that I can get to that last bolt for the actuator. I just have this wiring here. As long as we pop it off out of the way, we should be able to pull this out, and then I just need to undo a couple of these. There we go. All right. Theoretically, I'm hoping this is going to come out now. Looks like this coolant hose is getting in the way. There we go. All right. This wasn't too bad, but as you can see, there's 3 bolts down here that are just not pleasant to work with. And here goes our little turbo. This thing is tiny. The turbo seems to spin very well. No shaft play, perfect condition. So
Now we just get to this bottom guy over here. Okay, here we go. All right, perfect. Finally.
I guess this wasn't too bad.
I guess so far I've spent about two hours on this, so this whole job wasn't too bad. I guess I was just overthinking it a little, thinking that was going to be harder than it actually turned out to be.
When you go to install this, you first set the linkage onto the wastegate and then tighten this nut on once you reinstall this. Throw in our pin, which is now much easier to do once we have the intake tube off. There we go. And then we get this guy on, make sure that the plug side is facing upwards, and then slide this on and install the nut. Then we just throw in the 4 little bolts to secure the actuator, install the heat shields, and then put this guy back to its home. And after all of that was done, which went pretty uneventfully, wasn't as hard as I expected it to be, I had to replace our airbox because the original one got damaged. And that's the last thing we have to do in the engine bay. One of the last tasks we have on this car is swapping this cover for our center console. So I'm assuming this cover over here is supposed to pop out. Easy enough. And that reveals a little clip ring to remove this rod. We just pry that off, ideally without losing it, and remove it out of this side. Perfect, that was really easy. So this lug guy is supposed to go in here. Lastly, we clear all the fault codes and hope that they do not come back. Before I replace that actuator, they would re-emerge almost immediately after you restart the car. Control. Start. No dash lights. Looks like we're good. Those were immediately popping back up, so I think we're in the clear. As you guys saw, we had some significant wear on the interior, and because of that, I ordered some parts to try and make it a little cooler, as well as just cleaner. So we had purchased a carbon fiber and perforated leather steering wheel. And by the way, this is real carbon fiber, not hydro dipped. We're gonna be installing that, and I think that's gonna spice up this little Civic significantly. There are 2 little bolts holding down the airbag to the steering wheel. With those removed, all you have to do is pop it off and disconnect the electrical connections behind it. Then we need to undo the really tight single bolt holding the steering wheel to the steering column, which can be hard in this car that doesn't have a steering lock, so you need an extra friend to help you loosen that up. Then, after removing a few screws, we have a whole bunch of clips holding on all of the trims and buttons to the wheel. After carefully prying everything off, we can install it onto the new wheel and mount that to the car. And lastly, make sure that all of our steering wheel functions still work. Hey guys, and now is probably the last part of this video. Let's, as you guys know, I kind of like to go over the car, review it a little bit, especially when it's a car that I'm not familiar with, I've never driven before. In general, very unfamiliar with the Honda platforms, so I kind of like to get into whether or not I like this car, whether they're worth buying, whether they're worth owning, and if they're at all pleasant to drive. Obviously with this thing, it is meant as a somewhat enthusiast vehicle, especially with how loud and sharp it is on the outside. You would expect some performance. With this being a sport model with a manual transmission, even more so. At this point, I have put approximately, so that's one of the things that I'm not a big fan of. There have been multiple occasions of me not finding reverse gear because they do kind of make it a little hard to get into, because you really don't want to confuse it with the sixth gear. In general, there's more to be desired about the shifter. This is the amount of play it has while in gear, which honestly isn't great. However, by far the most annoying feature I found on this car is the rev hold. There's probably a better technical term for this, but basically the tune holds your RPM when you're upshifting. Instead of letting RPM naturally drop to idle speed when you're pushing in the clutch and let go of the throttle, the car automatically maintains RPM for a couple of seconds. Now this feature might be useful for people who are unfamiliar with driving manual and don't know how to properly rev match. But myself, who's been driving manuals for a while now, absolutely hated this, and it only made my shifts worse because I wasn't able to rev match. This way, every time I tried to give the car a little bit of gas in between shifts to compensate for the change in gearing, I was in too high of an RPM, which led to a jerky shift. Now, overall, for this price point, I'm pretty satisfied with this car. It gets like a 7 out of 10. As a general vehicle for getting around, that looks cool on the outside. The interior it's not ugly, it's well designed. My main issue was the wear on our shift knob and the steering wheel. That just kind of speaks volumes on the quality, the strength, and the just durability of the interior parts, because obviously steering wheel and shift knob are two most touched parts, and they did not fare well at all. Honestly, unacceptable. I mean, myself coming from Audi interiors, I am spoiled. I'm used to holding interiors to a high standard, right? And this is just absolutely terrible. However, luckily the seats, the rest of the interior has been doing okay, and so far I haven't noticed any significant rips, apart from like maybe a little cigarette mark burn over here on the headliner that I just noticed for the first time. Everything else looks good. Now, driving characteristics. The steering is decent. It is pretty numb, especially at highway speeds, but the handling itself is good enough. But just turnability, relatively, kind of sort of sporty. Okay, now I don't want to say sporty, it's just normal. It's average. It's what I expect a Toyota to drive like. That's what I expect a Honda Accord drive like. It just delivers. It does what it's supposed to do without any kind of cool features. In Honda fashion, everything is where it needs to be. I haven't noticed anything that's uncomfortable, except for the lack of lumbar adjustment on the driver's seat. I actually noticed a common to me lower back discomfort because of that. Door handles are where they should be. Everything is like where you expect it to be. Everything is easy to find, so that's always a bonus. That's something that drives me nuts whenever I get into cars and things are just not in the right place. The brakes feel good. I'm a big fan of the brakes on this car. and throttle response is also very normal, expected. Like it doesn't do anything you don't expect it to. Can't comment on the entertainment here because we have an aftermarket unit and it's not great. It doesn't have CarPlay, it's glitchy. It's currently showing reverse camera stuck back at the shop, so it never managed to get out of the reverse camera mode, and it's just frozen in that right now. And that's happened a decent amount of times in the amount of time I've owned it. Power, pretty much non-existent. Very, very average. Just what do you expect out of anything? A minivan, a Prius, a Camry, an Accord. Yeah, you floor it. Okay, we just lost a little bit of traction there, which is cool. But it's really wet, and I think we were driving over a manhole, so that's the best it can do, and that was in first gear, but sufficient. Like, if you're looking for something that's not fast, that's gonna keep you out of trouble, but is kind of a little fun to look at and drive around, a decent option. You know, there's a lot of cars that are very underpowered that people consider awesome to drive. Miatas, S2000s, all of those. Obviously, this is nothing near that. It's front-wheel drive, but kind of the same idea, where it doesn't really have to have a lot of power for it to be somewhat enjoyable. But you're definitely not going to be winning any roll races on a highway with this thing, that's for sure. I don't even think this has 200 horsepower, maybe makes about 170. And then let's talk about the exterior. The exterior is sharp. Like some people like it, some people don't. I actually consider it a good look. I do like the rear end. I do like the centered exhaust. I drove by a regular Civic earlier today and I saw the rear end and I thought it looked awful. On this, I actually like it. Nice spoilers, 2 of them, big fat bumpers. The only issue I have with that is that it's kind of a ricer from factory. Like, it just looks a little too sporty for what it is mechanically, what it is power-wise. I think that just fits the Honda bill. I mean, the older Civics maybe didn't look as sharp, so teenagers would buy them and modify them to make them look sharper. And Honda saw that and they were like, well, if they want a sharp car that is pretty slow, let's just give them that. And that's what they did here. So in conclusion, is it worth buying? As always, it depends on the buyer. It depends on what you're looking for. If reliability is a priority and power is not, then by all means, sure. What I'm not a huge fan of is the pricing on this. I mean, you can buy one of these for the same amount that you can buy an S4 for. And you guys know me, I've had multiple S4s and I'm a huge fan, and I consider them pretty reliable vehicles. They're very tunable, very quick, have twice the power that this car has, excellent handling, all-wheel drive, amazing interiors that last way better, and they cost about the same amount, if not less. So, you know, food for thought. I'm not gonna lie, I have to compare it to Audis because that's what I think is best. There's a reason why I keep buying Audis, keep owning Audis, and that's why my primary vehicles have been Audis ever since I started driving. So we're gonna wait for this thing to sell. We'll see if it happens soon enough before I finish editing this video. I will include that in the next shot, and if it doesn't, I will leave an update about whether this sold and for how much in one of the next videos. So stay tuned, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.